everyone, welcome to my kitchen. I'm Kathleen with Kathleen at Home. So the other day we were out in the rhubarb patch and I said I was going to make some recipes. That particular batch is not the rhubarb that I'm going to chop up today for you, but I thought, well, we might as well do rhubarb crisp today. So the rhubarb crisp recipe that I'm working with is a strawberry rhubarb crunch. I believe the recipe came from Taste of Homes. I would have no idea what year, but this is how I put my recipes in my book here, and that looks like the Taste of Homes writing. I'll make notes. I just love having my own cookbook with the recipes that my family loves, although I will confess, there are recipes that have been in here for a long time that I have never made yet. So again, fried ice cream, I'd like to make that. That's in the desserts section here. So maybe I ought to make fried ice cream soon. Anyhow, so what we're going to do today is I'm going to demonstrate how to make the crumble for the crisp portion of the strawberry rhubarb crisp. I'm going to demonstrate chopping up the rhubarb and how I kind of measure that out and how I, make the chop. And then we have to make a sauce. So the sauce is going to include our sugar and cornstarch, and then finally we do a little sprinkle of some strawberry gelatin on top. There's actually no strawberries in this. It's all going to be, the fruit's going to be your rhubarb. So let's go ahead and get started. It calls for 2 cups of all-purpose flour and 2 cups of packed brown sugar, 2 cups of cooked oats, and a cup of what? Butter. I'm going to try and do this whole video as if you are hanging out with me in the kitchen. My intention isn't to cut and splice unless, maybe I need to do that because, oh, who knows, I dropped something and I have a huge mess, or maybe that's actually still part of, the whole process. But what we'll do is we'll put our 2 cups of packed brown sugar, and we're putting it in a large pan in order to blend it. Now, most of the things that I have in my kitchen, that's probably going to be a wee bit too much. I have some sort of association with them. I got them from a grandmother. My husband bought them. For example, this Fiesta dish, my husband got me this. I love that. I have a connection with most everything I own. There's some reason that it's with me or that it's stuck around. So again, I enjoy those connections. So 2 cups, 2 cups, 2 cups. So we've got 2 cups of brown sugar, 2 cups of oatmeal, and now we're going to get the 2 cups of flour. Hey, doesn't everybody wish they had one of these awesome Hoosiers in their kitchen? Our farmhouse is 140 years old, so that really looks like it should be here. But this was a gift from my dad, 20-some years ago, and I love it. I use it all the time. It's, one of those objects in my home that I adore having. So thanks, Dad. Anyhow, I'm just going to kind of mix this together. And then the next part is going to be adding the butter. So I've got my 2 sticks of butter here because it calls for a cup of butter. And usually I'll cube this up so that it's a little bit easier to mix in. So here we go. A lot of, like I said, the things I have in my home and in my kitchen especially have a connection to someone. And I often will think about that person and what they mean to me. This particular pastry knife, that's what it's called, that I'm going to use to add the butter into my dry stuff, was my Grandma Boron's. My Grandma Boron used to make angel food cakes from scratch with a whisk. Now I make angel food cakes from scratch, but I use my KitchenAid mixer over there to whip up those egg whites, but she would do that by hand. And my dad said he can remember that. So when you're making your crumbles, whether it's for like the bottom of this pie crust, or maybe you're making a topping for apple pie, any kind of crumble, you want to get this butter incorporated into your flour, your sugar, and your oatmeal. Now, I don't worry about making it quite as crumbly as I would if I was making a pie crust. Pie crusts are pretty particular about how crumbly you get it, but this is a crisp, so I actually kind of like to have a little bit bigger chunks of butter in it because, I don't know, I think it makes it maybe a little bit ooier and gooier. I don't know if that's actually a phrase, but that's how I say it. So you heard that beeper go off, so I'm going to quick take a break here. And this is how we all cook, isn't it? We're not ever just making one recipe. I have some other things going. Let me go ahead and, I don't know, can I turn you here to see what else we got going? Oh, sure we can. All right, so let me go ahead and turn that around to the oven space. And we're gonna pull out, yes we are, gonna pull out some banana chocolate chip muffins. So I am the pack mom for my son's baseball team tonight. And what that means is I pack the sandwiches, the goodie, the drinks, and all that for them to have after the game. So I'm going to take these banana nut muffins for that. And I specifically am making them because the team that Zach's playing, a couple of his buddies play on that team. And last year he's on one of those summer travel ball teams. I made these muffins and those boys enjoyed it. So I'm gonna take some muffins to his summer league baseball team players. All right, we'll swivel you back here because we're gonna come back to crumbling that up a little bit more. I better set this timer or we won't have such tasty muffins. All right, so let's take a look at this crumble. Do we think we're about there? I think I can incorporate that a little bit more. I do use my hands a lot when I'm cooking and baking. Probably more baking than cooking. Who wants to stick their hand down in the hot pot? But anyhow. All right, so I think that's pretty decently crumbled. Let me show you what that looks like. And what the recipe calls for is half of it to be put into a 9 by 13 pan. But I had this pan sitting out. It was a salad yesterday. Today it's going to be a dessert. I had it, I washed it and it was sitting out and I thought, I'm just going to make my crisp in this round pan. So you put about half of it in and then you're going to pat it down. All right, so there you go for that. And we'll leave the other half to sprinkle on top. All right, so part B of making this crisp is putting the rhubarb on top of it. Now this rhubarb is not cooked in this particular crisp. I hope it's okay that I walk out of the screen. You can still hear me. But again, I really want you to just kind of feel like we're hanging out in the kitchen together. We're gonna make some rhubarb crisp. She really were in the kitchen here with me, and then we have, maybe some coffee and whatnot with our rhubarb crisp, and then we could enjoy the rhubarb crisp when it's all baked. So, next part is the rhubarb's been washed, and now it's time to chop it up. So I don't worry too much about chopping too finely or dicing or anything like that, because whenever I make a fruit something, I actually want to have pieces of that fruit still in the food. So like, I don't dice up peaches. Like when you're making a peach cobbler, you want to have a piece of a peach when you know, are eating that peach cobbler. So I tend to make my chopping bigger. So anywhere between, you know, an inch, half an inch, just chop along. And I've got such a nice sharp knife. Again, on that video where I was out in the patch, I was using a Werther knife. This is a Werther knife, and again, I'm not associated with them. I just love having them. Brad bought me this. I oohed and awed over it and oohed and awed over it, and I thought, no. And bless his heart, he bought it for me, but he likes to spoil me like that. But he's a tool guy. He says, you need the right tools, Kathleen. So he never seems to mind buying me kitchen tools. He likes all the stuff I make. I don't think there's been too many things that he hasn't liked. Our thing at our house, nobody was allowed to tell me that something I made for supper was yucky. That would have hurt my feelings. And, you know, I spent a lot of time making everything. But they were allowed to put a vote in. And the vote is if they didn't like it, and instead of saying it's yucky, they could say, you wouldn't have to make this again, Mom. So I've heard that a few times from my family. But by and large, they kind of like my cooking, which I certainly appreciate. So our recipe calls for 6 cups of sliced or frozen rhubarb. And if you use frozen rhubarb, you're supposed to thaw it. Again, if I, you know, was using strawberries or something that I had to buy, I would probably, you know, stay a little bit closer to that measurement because, you know, I'd have that expense. But because I've got rhubarb practically growing out of my ears right now between the 3 patches, I'm going to be a wee bit more generous and probably go closer to 8 cups. I have never had that bother this recipe by going over with the rhubarb. So, you know, keep that in mind. I'm not probably going to increase the amount of saucy stuff I make. Probably leave that about the same, but I'll add a little bit more rhubarb. So we're going to keep chopping rhubarb here in a bit, but I want to get the sauce starting to go because my friend Mary Jo was telling me about how her mom always made rhubarb, and so she was telling me, you know, you cook the rhubarb, put a little bit of brown sugar on it, and then put a little pat of butter on it when you're, I think just when you're eating it. I don't think it's when you're cooking it. So I'm going to take some of that rhubarb and try Mary Jo's recipe. And she didn't give me any measurements, and that's all good and fine because I don't tend to always work with measurements. So here we go. So I'm more at about 8 cups. Dump her in there and spread it out. All right, so there's our pan. I'm gonna turn you towards the oven here, the stove top here, and we'll get going on the next part. All right, besides muffins, I've got my homemade bread going over here. 3 loaves going. This happens to be a batch of with sunflower seeds in it. My sister likes when I make it with sunflower seeds. And I hadn't done that for a while until she was coming home for Christmas. She said, could you make your bread with sunflower seeds today? I said, I certainly can. So, all right, back to our project here. I love to tell stories. Oh, it looks like, doesn't it look like I maybe coordinated my glasses with my apron? I did not. I have lots of these fun, crazy reading glasses that I wear. And this is one of the aprons I made from, I laid my grandma's apron pat on a piece of, what do you call it, wrapping paper. And then I made this apron from it. All right. In our saucepan here, we're going to combine sugar and cornstarch together, and then we're going to stir in the water till it's smooth. So 2 tablespoons cornstarch and 1 cup of sugar. So 2 tablespoons cornstarch. And I keep my cornstarch in this old Ovaltine container. Go. My kids drank a lot of Ovaltine when they were little, and so I buy what I can in bulk. It makes me glad to have less waste And I also, pretty much feel it's a better price, of course. So, and then 2 tablespoons. And there's a number of things that I just leave a measure in, and this is one of them. This measuring spoon is always in there. And so, here we go. What was the amount of water they wanted us to add? 1 cup water. So what are you doing today? Besides watching Kathleen at home make some rhubarb crisp. I'm assuming you're not just sitting there just watching me. You probably got something else you're doing. Maybe you're sitting with some knitting in your hand, or maybe you have some rhubarb that you're chopping up or making something in your kitchen. I'm glad we're here together. All right, I don't know how long this is going to take. So we'll let it get going. We're supposed to stir in your water till smooth and bring to a boil. We're going to cook and stir for 2 minutes or until thickened, where we're going to put in our vanilla. We're going to put in our vanilla. So how about while that's getting started, we sweep back over here and we'll do a little bit more chopping. Because you know how important it is to manage your time. One of the things I do to manage my time and help myself not get overwhelmed when all the fun of cooking's done is I always have a sink of dishwater going, so that, when I go and rinse my hands off, because, I had it in that crumble mixture. When I go over to rinse my hands off, I wash a couple of dishes. And that way, the dishes don't get so far ahead of me that, I can't have any fun at the end of my cooking time. Lots of times I'll do what I'm doing today. I do some batch cooking, baking, making, etc. Because I got the oven on. I might as well do a couple things at once. I try and work very hard at my timing, getting my timing down just right, so that, as that bread's rising, I've got the muffins going. I'll have this recipe ready to go, and we'll be using our oven temperature. So I'm not heating up the oven, letting the oven cool, heating up the oven, letting the oven cool. So by doing this 1, 2, 3, that's my halfway. And I'll tell you why I'm switching from top to bottom on halfway, because my bananas were still slightly frozen when I added them into the recipe. So I thought, well, I'm going to make that part of lowering and lifting them closer and further away from the heat. What do you call that? The heat coils. All right, a little bit more chop. Then we're going to probably be ready to really start paying attention to our sauce making over there. It's just a sugar cornstarch thickener. Your flavoring is going to come from the gelatin that you sprinkle on top. All right. Be careful with your cutting and your knife usage. All that good stuff. Again, I chop mine relatively large. Since this is going to go in a sauce, it's just going to cook down anyhow. So there's no real reason to dice it up real fine. So, all right. Are you having fun swiveling back and forth and back and forth? There we go. We're back. All right, we're to a boil. I'm going to kind of watch the clock for us. So this calls for 1 package of gelatin. Again, I have this, I'm not in the screen here. I have this gelatin, it's bulk brand, so I have to measure it out. And I think for Jell-O, it's, yes, 1/3 of a cup of Jell-O to 1 cup of boiling water and 1 cup of cold water. So 1/3 cup is about what your box of Jell-O would be if you're buying that in bulk. Oh, this is getting nice and thick. You can see that. I don't want to, oops, maybe with too much steam you're not going to get to see it. But we're just making that nice sugar sauce. I'll let that go to conserve energy where I can. So, you know, you've still got some heat going on that surface. So if you only have 10-15 seconds left, you know, of your cooking time or so, you know that heat's still going to be there. So I'll turn it off and let that finish up that way. All these sound like little silly things, you know, turning your oven on, baking a couple things at a time, turning your, you know, coil off so that you can use that residual heat. But that's part of the way I feel like I'm helping our world. I don't like to waste. Waste is I just do not like to waste. So let me grab my vanilla from my cabinet, and then we'll add that. We'll pour it over top of our crisp, and our timing is just about right because this batch of cookies, muffins, is going to be done in about 6 minutes. So about the right time. So let's see, teaspoon vanilla. I always use the cap of the vanilla as my teaspoon measure. I don't know if it's 100% on target, but I don't tend to cook at that kind of, it's got to be 100% on target. That's just not me. All right, let's move all that good stuff aside. We'll stay here rather than swiveling you back around again. Oh, I'm having so much fun making these videos. I hope you're enjoying them. I said to someone the other day, I'd really like to have the goal of making about 6 a month, but you know, as I said in that first video, I worry about creating too much expectation or what have you on myself. So while that's a goal, that's what it is. It's a nice target to shoot for, but you know, life can get busy. Maybe there's nothing exciting going on. That's hard to believe. There's always something going on around here. So sometimes maybe I'll have to take you with Kathleen not at home, because I'm not always at home. Like tonight, we got that baseball game to get to, so we do a good bit of that. So 1/3 cup of our gelatin will be sprinkled around the top. Good catch. And you're going to sprinkle that across the top. Hello, come on in and see what we're doing. See how I'm sprinkling that across the top? We're not going to stir it in. It's just a sprinkle across. It'll meld down in as all this goodness bakes. And I'm going to put this recipe in the comments for you. And because this has to bake for 45 minutes, I don't think you want to just hang out just for 45 minutes waiting for this to bake. So maybe I'll try and put a picture of this crisp in the comments for you too, so you can see what we made together. So last part is adding our crumble onto the top, and I'm trying to spread it around nicely, because what's going to happen is it's going to start bubbling up, and some of the sauce, some of the, you know, Jell-O sauce is going to bubble up and over top of this crisp, and it'll make a real pretty dessert, as well as a very tasty dessert. This one has, I have 2 things marked here. Great Misco Fall, so I must have made it sometime in the fall, so maybe, oh, I know. And then I also have, oh, Grandma Misco Favorite, not Great Misco Fall. It says Grandma Misco Favorite, so I've made this for my mother-in-law. And then I also have a note that says, makes a great raspberry crisp. Substitute raspberry in and eliminate the Jell-O, less brown sugar. So I eliminated the Jell-O and I added raspberries in with the rhubarb, okay? But I'm not sure why I would eliminate the Jell-O. You might as well add it. It's going to add some thickener. It's going to add some additional flavor. So, all right. There you go. So our rhubarb crisp is ready to put in the oven as soon as these muffins come out. Rhubarb, it's a great source of vitamin K. It's good fiber. It is an antioxidant. Now, we've added a whole lot of sugar in here, so maybe we're undoing some of that health factor, but the rhubarb does have some goodness to it. All right, well, I hope you have a fabulous day. I hope you get a chance to try this rhubarb recipe. let me go ahead and add this little thing because I keep hearing this on the YouTubes that I watch. Subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff so that we're getting to interact as a community. And again, I hope this is a community. I hope you'll comment and we can converse back and forth. Maybe you'll share some recipes with me. I'd appreciate that. All right, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you back here, maybe in the kitchen, maybe making some bread next time. We'll see what we get to next time, but I wish you a wonderful day. Happy day, blessings to you.